and welcome back to the sewing room with Garner. My name is Sandra and I will be walking you through today's tutorial. So today's tutorial we are actually going to be making a tunic style blouse that's kind of roomy and airy and really great for spring and summer. And this tutorial we're actually going to make it for, women with curves and voluptuous, curves. So that's what we're going to do today. We're actually going to make one for like extra large to 2X kind of size. So that's the measurements we're going to be using today. So if you are a woman who've got curves and you've got some, bumps, I guess they call them, then this is the sewing tutorial for you. Okay, so this is the style blouse that we're going to be making. So I'm going to put it right here. Okay, so this is the style of the blouse we're going to be making. See, it's nice and flowy and airy, but then it also kind of comes down like a tunic style with a little bit more shape. Because if you could tell, when I take it out like this, see, it's like a half circle. Pretty neat, huh? So that's the style we're going to be going for. Is nice and flowy and flouncy a little bit, but just kind of like all nice and pretty, and not like a straight tunic style. So we're going to change it up a little bit. We'll start off with our basic bodice block, and then we'll go from there. Now, if you're going to be taking your measurements, here's a couple things to note. When you're taking your bust measurement, you're going to want to come across the apex. So be sure to be wearing a nice bra with this. So something that you would normally wear out would be nice. Try not to do a sports bra or like a tanky bra kind of thing, because it's not going to hold the girls up enough to kind of really get an idea of what size you're going to need. So make sure you're supporting the girls. You're going to come across, and you want to make sure that it is parallel to the floor, so it's evenly across the apex. And on my mannequin, I have it set at the largest thing that it can go, so it's like 39 and a half. We're using bigger measurements than this, okay, because I'm like 42, like 42, 46, something like that. And then we don't even need a waist measurement, but we need a hip measurement. So you're going to find the largest part of your hip to include your buttocks, and you're going to come across that and also include your butt in there. It's important. Make sure it's parallel to the floor so it's nice and even, and take that measurement. This mannequin here, it's not set up to the widest thing here. It can go up to 38 on this mannequin, but we're going to also have some curves. We're going to have some hips, we're going to have some curves. So that's what we're accounting for today when we work on our pattern piece. So this is what you're looking for. Oh, another thing you're going to want to measure is from your front shoulder seam. You're going to want to measure from that across the bust, okay, because we're counting the volume of the bust, down to the length that you're wanting the blouse to be. So the blouse can go down to the waistline, it can go down to the hip line, or it can go further down than that if you'd like to. So just keep that in mind. This is all for you to just use different sizes and make this pattern fit you. Okay, so come all the way down for the length that you want it to be. For the shoulder strap, kind of get an idea of what's comfortable for you. Sometimes you want wider straps, sometimes you want thinner straps. So kind of get a good measurement about like where you like to wear it, and then come across. And if you want it to land at your shoulder cap, okay, then you're going to measure from a little bit distance, about an inch or two from your neckline, and then to your shoulder cap. On here it's 4 inches. Okay, so those are a couple of measurements you're going to need for this basic tunic style blouse. Okay, so now we're going to actually work with our paper pattern and get you something drafted up. Okay, so now we're going to, I just put some paper together and just taped it together. So no big deal. Just taped up some paper. See, it's kind of like taking out the basic kind of size. I kind of made it a little wider here because remember, we're wanting to really have it come out. So that's why I have that there, okay? So when you're drafting, you don't want to start exactly at the very top of your paper, because if you do that, then you're not going to allow yourself to have, let me flip this in a little bit. You're not going to have yourself, allow yourself to have some room for your shoulder up here. So it's very important that you come down and then start your measurements. Okay, so for this basic pattern, for a like extra large to 2X, I'm coming down from the top of my paper, so 3.5 inches. I'm going to use a Sharpie so you guys can see. I'm going to come down 3.5 inches on my paper. Okay, so it's 3.5 inches from the paper, and this is actually going to be my back, the back piece. I'm going to start with the back piece, and then I'm going to pencil in the front piece. Okay, so it's on the same pattern. Okay, so I'm going to take that 3.5 inches there, and I'm going to come over. From there, I'm going to come over 5.5 inches. That's where, let's see here, 6 inches actually. I'm going to come over 6 inches from that mark. Okay, right there. That's going to be the distance between your neck. Okay, so the center of your neck over. So how you get that is if you go around your neck, you divide that by 4, and then you're going to want to have some room in there. If you just want to just the front piece, you can too, because you're going to go from, kind of go like that. Then divide that in half, and then you're going to want to add some ease in there. Okay, so that for me is 4.5, and then I added an extra 2 inches just for some ease. It's going to kind of come down here. Okay, remember, the larger the sizes get, the wider your shoulders are going to be as well, so take that into account. My shoulders are a little bit narrower, even though I am an extra large, so for me, I would make it a little narrower. But if for the regular sizes that I'm doing right now, it's usually a little bit wider. Just to keep that in mind. Okay, so over from the shoulder, I'm going to come across by 4 inches. So I'm just going to mark that out. 4 inches from that mark that I did there. Okay, so that's 4 inches right from here. And I'm going to start using my ruler to start connecting things. Okay, so right here, that's the shoulder right now. Okay, so another measurement we're going to want to take is you're going to want to come down from the top of your neckline. We're going to come down, and we're going to come down, referencing my notes, 11.5 inches. We're going to come down 11.5 inches. This is the measurement you get from your shoulder, from that top shoulder to where the bust starts. Okay, for me that's 11.5 inches. Boom, 11.5 inches. This is going to be your apex. Okay, I'm going to mark that out. So from there, you're going to come down to your waistline. That's approximately 9 inches. I say about 9 inches. It depends on different people. Like for me, it's different. Like from here, from my bust down, from my, it's only 6 because I'm short. So some people are longer. So I'm on the short end. So most people, it's like much further down. So I'm going to go down now, 9 inches. 9 inches. Okay. And then from that, another 9 inches for your hip. Obviously, if you're doing it for yourself, use the measurements that you have for yourself. I'm just using general, just generic numbers right here. Okay. I'm going to come across and across. Trying to get stuff out of the way. There we go. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, these are all the numbers we have right now. So, coming back up to the shoulder seam here, the shoulder obviously isn't just straight, it kind of slopes down. So you're going to want to come down a few inches to kind of make a slope. So on mine, I'm going to come down, I guess like 2 inches or so. an inch and a half. Inch and a half when it come down to there. So now I'm going to connect this point with this point and connect those two lines together. Oh, okay, so we're no longer using this one, just crossing that out. So we're now having this point to that point. Now I want to go ahead and make a curve between this point and my back. Okay, so you could use shoulder curve right there. So all I'm doing is making sure that I'm connecting that dot. See where I said my back was starting, right there. Okay. Now for this part here, okay, this is where you'd actually take the measurement of above the bust, and that's going to be halfway point from here to here. So from the apex to the back of your back of neckline, halfway through, that's where you're going to do your measurement for up here. Okay, so for me, on a generic kind of thing, I'm just gonna see here. Right here, and I'll give you guys some measurements here in a second, because I have these on my thing. So 10 1/4, 10 inches. This is where that's going to be from there. So what you're doing with that is that's just your front across. So that's taking from here, like right above the lady bumps. Right there. And for me it's 20. So for 20, then divide that in half, it's 10. That's where I made this mark right here. Okay? Okay, so now we want to go ahead and come up from this mark by about 2 inches. So we're going to do that about 2 inches. We're going to come up about 2 inches. Okay, and that's to give us that little curve and give us space to then come down to the bust area, because it doesn't come exactly, you don't want your sleeve to come all sloping down too much, so you kind of want to bring it up a little bit to kind of adjust for your bust. Okay, so these two lines I'm connecting, right? But from here to here, we have to connect these 3 pieces. Okay, for the back, for your back is not as in as the front of the body. So because this here is 10 inches for me on the front, I'm going to give myself some more for the back, because obviously it doesn't come all the way to the back. So I'm going to give myself an inch. Okay, so this is for the back and that's for the front, and I'm going to just connect these. I'm going to use my curvy ruler, connect all of these. Bam. Okay, and then I'm going to connect for the front piece. This one I kind of like to freehand, just kind of mimic what I'm doing. There we go. So that's the back, this is the front. Okay? Alright, so here's where your waist measurements and your hip measurement come into play. For your waist, it's really not necessary, because unless you have a waist that comes from the bust area, so like if you are pregnant and you have a bump, then you could do that. But the way this sways out, even if you have a little bit that goes over the breast area, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. But your hip is important, because you want it to flow over your hips without having any issues. So that hip measurement is important. So I'm going to use a hip measurement at 55-ish in here. And then you take that measurement and you divide that by 4. Okay? So once you've done that, 55 divided by 4, so 50 divided by 4 is 25, and then you add the other 5, 2.5, so that's 27.5 approximately. Yeah, that's in half. Oh, that's in half. That's right. That's a lot less than that. Let me get it, hold on. So 55 divided by 4. 13.75. Okay. 13. That's 7.5. That's about here. Okay, right there. We're not making a fitted blouse. We want something to be flowy. So we obviously want to add some to that. So I'm actually going to add 3 inches of ease because we want it to be flowy. Okay, so that's going to be our new mark. So from here to here, we're going to connect from there to there. Okay, so this is up under the arm. Oopsies, the paper's moving. To that, and then it's going to extend even more because we want this one to be past our hips. Okay, so the measurement we had taken for my model on this was 30 inches from the front shoulder, 30 inches right there, but we're making it longer than that because she wants it a little longer. So we're going to go to about 35 inches. Okay, we're doing about 35 inches because once you do all the seams and all the other stuff, you really want to make sure, because the shoulder seam is going to take up a 1/2 inch. The hem on the bottom is going to take an inch and a half. So that's all going to start shrinking up if you don't account for it now. You have to account for your seam allowances. Okay, so let's connect these bad boys. Connect, connect, connect. Boom. That's the science behind all of this. Like, really. I'm going to make it go down a little bit longer because we want it to be 35. I'm going to bump this up a little bit so I can connect my 35 inch. I like using my mat underneath because I could literally see whether I'm actually squaring something off or not without using a T-ruler. Like a squared off ruler, it makes it easier for me. So here is our basic pattern top. And because it flows out, right, it's going to flow out. So now for the front part right here, right, so right here in the front, we want to go ahead and make the neckline for your front. You obviously don't want this all the way up here like a boat neck. So if you want a boat neck, go for it. I mean, dip it down just by like an inch or two and you're fine. But for a regular neckline, we usually go down about 4 inches. So anywhere between 3 to 4 inches. So this one, let's go down 3.5 inches. Let's meet it in the middle, 3.5. Not too far, but like not too high either. So I'll probably actually do it at 3 inches. Because by the time we fold it in, that's going to be another thing. So that's another thing. Sometimes with women with, you know, a lot of curves, we have to kind of wear things are a little higher up. And when you get larger sizes, for some reason they think, oh yeah, let's just dip it in really hard, like hardcore. I'm like, no, we actually need more room up here to cover some more stuff. So that's just my personal opinion. I mean, you guys can go down if you want to. Go for it, girl. There is no shame in your game, believe me. No shame at all. Go for it. Own those curves, girl. Okay. There we go. So I'm coming in and making a curve to connect right there. So this is the front neckline, and then this is the back neckline. Okay. So hopefully you guys can see that because I'm working with it, because I think this is really cool. Now, you need seam allowances. Okay. We need seam allowances here. And we need a seam allowance up here. So we need to add some seam allowance to all this. Now, I added my seam allowance at the bottom. And I don't need any seam allowance inside the armholes because we're not adding any sleeves. So there's no seam allowance in there. That's going to be self-binded. I'm going to show you what that means. But at the shoulder seam, we're going to need to attach it somehow to itself. So we need to add a seam allowance there. And we need to add a seam allowance to the side because we don't want to take away from the side. We don't want it making it smaller. We want to make it larger. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add a 1/2 inch seam allowance to all of this. I love my ruler because I can literally just see right through it and see my little lines and know when I'm doing a 1/2 inch. And I just line it up and I go with it. Bam. Makes adding seam allowances so much easier. We got birdies. Boom. That's our bodice. So this is the same piece we're going to use for the front and the back. The only difference is the back piece for us will be this curve here and this curve here. And then for the front, it's going to be this one and this one. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of be like front, front. Okay, so I know that this is the front line and this is the front line, and then these lines here are for the back. Okay, so now that we've got our pattern piece, you can go ahead and trace this out to another piece. I like to kind of keep it intact and then just kind of go from there when it comes to putting it on the fabric. So we get to pick out fabric now. We get to have fun. All right, let's pick out some fabric. So I have a whole bunch of fabric. You guys can see I have lots of glorious fabric. I got lots of fabric. This is interfacing. Over here, all kinds of fun stuff. So, I mean, I even have this really pretty, like, sheer stuff. It's really pretty. This blue in here. I think my daughter picked these out, these two out for some reason. These are for, like, little girls. So let's do this one. I think that's going to be really cute. Yes. That'll be very cute. Roll it back a little bit. Okay, so we're going to use this fabric. We're going to use this beautiful fabric. Look at that. Gorgeous, gorgeous. So here is a tip. Before you cut into your fabric, before you do anything with it, if it is a fabric that is 100% cotton or it is a knit, wash it, dry it, then cut into it. This is not a knit. This is not a cotton. This was kind of, it's like a steel cotton fabric, but it's got something else in it. It's not going to shrink like other cottons, like quilting cottons. There you go. A quilting cotton will shrink. It does have a little bit of shrinkage. A lot of the apparel stuff doesn't really have a lot of that because they know it's for apparel and they don't want stuff shrinking on them all the time. So we have 2 yards of this lovely fabric. I'm going to put that aside. I'm going to cut out our pattern piece. So I'm going to go right around my black lines. And I do this with tailor's chalk on the fabric itself. So I don't usually, do this on paper, but I wanted to show you guys what my method to my madness is. I usually just do it with tailor's chalk right on the fabric. I've got my concentrating face on. Okay. I'm actually going to give it a little slight curve. I gave the bottom a little slight curve. I went down by 1/2 inch and then I came up by about 1/2 inch. I did that by eye. I'm a rebel. Go for it. That's what I said. Just go for it. Okay. The basic fitting shape is there. It's not like, you know, you're taking it off from here or something. You're not doing that. So, all right. So now we are going to take our pattern piece, move it aside. I'm gonna take our beautiful fabric, and as you can tell, this is only half the pattern. So we're actually using it on the fold. We're cutting this out on the fold. So don't think, oh, this is the whole thing. No, we are going to be cutting this on the fold. And I'll make notes on this pattern piece later to reference that it's a extra large or 2 extra large or something. I'll put the measurements on here so I can kind of get an idea of what I'm doing. So what I like to do now, and see that we've got plenty of room, gorgeousness. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to fold this on itself again. So we literally cut once and then trim, and then that's it. So we're not having to do double the work. That makes sense? Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm going to fold my fabric in half. And we actually have enough that if we wanted to do little like flutter sleeves, we could. But we're doing a basic tunic right now. Oh. Excuse me. I have my fold on the other side. I have to be like, oh, wait a second. I have a piece of pink fabric on there. There we go. Now I like to line it up on my mat to match one of my lines. I'm not OCD about a lot of things, but fabric I am. Like that kind of stuff when I'm cutting. It's the quilting ingrained in me or something. I love to quilt, I just don't have enough time to do quilting. I don't have the time. I don't have the luxury of time with quilting. Okay, there we go. Nice and flat. Don't worry if it's a little wrinkly. It's not going to kill you. If it is, just take it to the iron and iron it out. It's no big deal. Okay, we're going to take it and we're going to shush it up to make sure we have a little bit of space everywhere. Yep. Perfect. Now, put it away. And I just had them up here, so I know that they're around here somewhere. Kelly's like, what are you looking for? Pattern widths. Like, what am I looking for? Pattern weights. Nothing crazy. Just a couple pattern weights. Now we're going to go to town. See that? Now, if you wanted it to make this even more flared out, you would just take it from here. Just kind of like go. If you had room for it. If you wanted to do it. Depends if you want to be a rebel. Do we want to be a rebel? Let's go be a rebel. No, I'm not going to be a rebel. I'm going to go according to the plan. Why? Because everyone's like, why make a pattern if you're just going to not use it? Because that's how I am. That's how I am. That's how I run this. That's how I run the show. See, we actually do have enough to make a little flutter sleeve. And what I mean by a flutter sleeve, it's literally a sleeve that just comes from here over. It doesn't get attached down here. It just flutters down, and it has enough to kind of tack in like a cap sleeve, but it's flowy. Just run with it. Okay, so there's the pattern piece for the back. So now for the front, we need to dip in here and here. Okay. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pattern pieces off. Okay, this is my back piece. Remove it. Put it aside. Take your pattern piece. Cut it out with the paper scissors. Another thing. Don't use your fabric scissors on paper. I don't care who you are. Please don't do it. Mark them out so you know which ones they are. Because I can tell you which ones are my paper scissors. Because they can't cut thread for nothing. So I know that they're my paper scissors. I had someone in class yesterday that kept trying to snip threads with the paper scissors and are just getting more and more frustrated. And I was like, those are paper scissors. And they're like, and they won't even cut thread. I was like, no, they're horrible. So you could take this and set it aside. You don't have to throw this away because you could literally take this back on for a second, reuse the pattern, and it's done. I mean, so you've got it marked. Just add it in there. So don't throw it away. Keep it together in your pattern piece, and then there you go. You're saving paper. Boom. 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 Put those aside. Okay. Take this, line it back up. Okay, so I'm lining it up here at this point, and you can't see, I've got a little messed up in your way. I'm lining it up right here at the shoulder seam, and under shoulder seam, under arm seam, bam, bam. Put your pattern weights down, and cut. There's that. There's that. So from the drawing board to the cutting board in like 25 minutes, you've got your pattern cut out. I'm guesstimating, maybe less. I think I'm good. And there's our pattern pieces. We've got 2 front pieces and 2 back pieces. Now, if you had a very small opening and you can't get your head through it, you could do a keyhole opening in the back. And I'll tell you what that is if it's necessary. I think we'll be fine though, because it depends on the opening in the back. Like you could dip in a little bit more in the back if you needed to get a over your head kind of thing. But there we go, we got our back pieces and our front pieces. And now, part 2, we're going to sew it all together.